crochet friends, this is Sarah from Ned and Mimi, and in this video we are going to crochet this gorgeous striped blanket. Now while you can make this blanket just by watching the video, I do recommend that you also follow along with the free crochet pattern which is available on my website nedandmimi.com, and I have linked to that below. In the video I will show you how to work the stitch pattern for this blanket as well as adding a simple linen stitch border. Now my finished blanket measures about 30 inches wide by 37 inches long, but the pattern does contain detailed information on how to make any size that you wish, so definitely check that out. And of course, if you do have a second to like this video and subscribe, that would be absolutely amazing. Before we get started crocheting, let's just take a quick look at the supplies that we are going to need. So this pattern is actually very versatile, and for my blanket I used a weight 5 or bulky weight yarn and a 6mm crochet hook, but you could easily use a worsted weight yarn and a suitable hook, probably a 5mm, and you would just either end up with a smaller blanket or make a slightly larger one, and I will explain how to do that once I get started. So the yarn that I used was Billow from WeCrochet, and this is a 100% pima cotton yarn, and I thought actually that the cotton might be a little bit too stiff for a blanket, but actually this yarn is beautifully soft and I absolutely love the drape that I got with the 6mm crochet hook, and I love the way that it turned out. So for my blanket I used 4 different colours, as you can see here, but you can use 2 colours, you can use 3, 4, 5, any combination at all of colours that you like. You will just need to keep repeating the pattern that I'm going to show you until your blanket is the size that you want. So without further ado, let us start crocheting now. So let's get started. Now, as I mentioned already, this is a very versatile stitch pattern. So the only thing that you need to know really is that your starting chain needs to be a multiple of 6 plus 2. So for the blanket, the chunky blanket that I made in my pattern, I started with a chain of 80. So if we do the math on that, it's 6 multiplied by 13 is 78 plus 2 is 80. So for the swatch that I'm going to make now, just to show you the stitch pattern, I'm not going to make anything that large. So I am going to start with a chain of 32. So that's 6 multiplied by 5 plus 2. So as long as you follow that rule, you can pretty much make this blanket any size that you like. So if you are changing up your yarn weight or using a worsted weight yarn, for example, you will need to do a little bit of math just to work out how big your blanket is going to be, or you could totally just wing it and stop crocheting when you feel like the blanket is large enough. So I'm going to go ahead now and chain 32. So I am going to start with a slip knot. Alright, so there's my starting chain. Now the first row is going to be super simple. I'm just going to single crochet in each stitch across. So I'm going to skip the first chain from the hook and begin in the second chain. And what I like to do usually when working into my starting chain is flip it over and work into these back bumps here. So I just feel like it gives a much neater appearance to the start of your work when you do it this way. So away we go. We're just going to single crochet in the back bump all the way along. Okay, so there is row 1 complete. So depending on what your starting chain was, you should have 1 stitch less than your starting chain. So I chained 32, which means I have 31 stitches. If you're making the same size blanket as I did and you chained 80, then you have 79 stitches. So let's get straight into row 2 now. So we're going to chain 1 and turn, and that chain does not count as a stitch. So the turning chain never counts as a stitch in this pattern, and we're going to single crochet now in the first 2 stitches. Then we will chain 1, skip the next stitch, single crochet, chain 1 again, skip the next stitch, and then 3 single crochets. Okay, so we have chain, single crochet, chain, 3 single crochets. And we're just going to repeat that pattern all the way along. So chain, skip 1, single crochet, chain, skip 1, 3 single crochets. So now at the end of the row, I have just 5 stitches left here, and I'm going to do my chain 1, skip a stitch, single crochet, chain 1, and then 2 single crochets in the last 2 stitches. So skipping this third one from the end and then 2 single crochets. And what that's going to do is just give us a mirror image of what we did at the start of the row. Alrighty, so that is row 2 done. So going straight into row 3, this is going to start to get a little bit more complicated, but not too much so. So we'll chain 1 again and turn, and again that chain 1 does not count as a stitch. So we are going to begin with 2 single crochets. And now our next stitch is going to be a double crochet, but it's actually going to be in this skipped single crochet down here. So this one down here. And what we're going to do when we insert our hook is push this chain 1 to the back and just work in front of it like so. So I will yarn over for my double crochet, insert my hook into this stitch, and then just making sure that I'm keeping that chain 1 to the back of my work, and I will just finish my double crochet as normal. All right, so that one is a little bit tricky, but you'll get plenty of practice for this row, don't worry. So next stitch is a chain 1, and then we're going to skip that single crochet, and then we're going to work the exact same double crochet in the next stitch, but 2 rows down. So yarning over, insert my hook in there and keeping the chain to the back, and then just complete my double crochet as normal. Now my next block of stitches is going to be 3 chains, and then we're going to skip these 3 single crochets and then continue on with that double crochet pattern. And I'm just going to repeat that pattern all the way along. So my double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 3, skip 3 stitches, and then begin again. And at the end of the row, just as at the beginning, we had our double crochet, chain, double crochet with 2 single crochets at the start. And we're going to finish off with 2 single crochets here as well, just so we're mirroring what we did at the beginning of the row. Okay, so it's a bit of a funny row because it is kind of leaning towards the front, but don't worry, we're going to sort all that out in the next row. So moving on to row 4. Now this is the row that I find the trickiest in this entire stitch pattern, but with a little bit of practice, you'll definitely get the hang of it. So let's chain 1 and turn again. We will single crochet in the first 2 stitches. And now our next 3 stitches are going to be 3 chains. So we will 1, 2, 3. And we're going to skip this double chain double. So skip the 3 of those. And now we're going to need to work 3 double crochets, but they're going to go in to these 3 stitches here. So not only are we skipping the 3 stitches the previous row, we're skipping the 3 stitches 2 rows down as well. Now, the tricky thing about the next 3 double crochets are that we need to keep this chain, so this chain 3, to the front of our work, and we need to work it like this. So it can be a little bit tricky to figure out where to insert your hook, but as long as you make sure that you skipped 3 single crochets down here and then keep the chain to the front, we know that we're going to be working into this stitch next. So there's a little bit of twisting and maneuvering. But once you have worked this repeat a few times, it's really easy to see actually if you're on track or not. So let's just do our 3 double crochets there. And if we have a look, we can see that we skipped 3 stitches here. So that's good. We didn't want to work those. And then we have our 3 double crochets going in down here. So let's just do that repeat once more. So as with the previous rows, it's a 6 stitch repeat. So we'll do our chain 3, skip 1, 2, 3 stitches, bring our chain to the front of our work and making sure that we're skipping 3 there, and we know that this is going to be our next stitch to work into. So if you are finding this really tricky, actually, what I like to do with stitch patterns, if I ever get confused, is to use stitch markers. So you could go ahead and mark out the first stitch that you're going to be working these 3 double crochets into all the way along the row. So just mark out this stitch in each section and it'll make your life much easier, because then you always know where you're going to be inserting the hook. And once you've done the repeat a few times, it'll be absolutely no problem. So let's continue repeating that. Chain 3 and 3 double crochets all the way along. And then, as always, finishing off with 2 single crochets. Okay, so that is row 4 done, and this is the wrong side of our work. So let's just flip it over so that we're looking at the right side. And there we go. There we can see our first block done. And now it is actually time to change colour. So for the blanket, I cut my yarn after each block of colour because I was using 4 colours and it was just too much to carry it up the side of my work. If you're using 2 colours, I definitely think you'll get away without cutting your yarn and then just carry it up as you go. So for this colour change, I'm not going to cut my yarn. I'm just going to grab my next colour here. So each colour is going to have 4 rows. So let's just insert my hook here, and this is my favourite way to do colour changes, but you can change the colours however you like. So I'm just going to yarn over, pull that through, and then give a little tug on colour 1 there and just pull it down, and that just anchors colour 2 in place. So I will chain 1 and turn, and we will continue on now with row 5, which is in our new colour. So as always, we're going to begin with our 2 single crochets, and this row is kind of fun. I like this one actually. So the next 3 stitches are going to be a double crochet, a treble crochet, and then a double again. So we'll just yarn over, insert our hook into this double crochet here, and again, because this is the right side of our work, we're keeping that chain 3 to the back. So we'll just make our double crochet there, and now we're going to do a treble crochet, but we're going to go into this stitch all the way down here. So keeping that chain 3 to the back and keeping this chain 1 to the back as well. So we yarn over twice, insert our hook down here, and just make sure that the hook is in front of those chains, and then complete our treble as normal. And then the next one is going to be a double crochet again, 2 rows down. Okay. And if we have a look back here, we just see that our chains are being kept to the back. Now the next 3 stitches are very easy. It's just 3 single crochets. And then we will repeat our double, treble, double in the next block. And as with the previous rows, we just repeat those 6 stitches all the way along. So our double, treble, double, and our 3 singles. So I'll go ahead now and just finish off this row. All right, so that is our 5th row done, and you can see now how introducing this second colour is creating that beautiful wavy effect. So the good news is that after this row, you're just basically going to be repeating what you have done already. So ignoring row 1, we're going to be repeating row 2, 3, 4, and 5 for as long as we need. And every 4 rows, we will either change colour to a new colour or introduce a colour that we have already used. So what I might do is go ahead and work another repeat of this section. So I'll go ahead and repeat rows 2, 3, and 4. And then for the next row, I will reintroduce this mustard colour, so my colour 1, just so you can see what it is going to look like. So my next row is, just to recap, on row 2, we are going to do our chain 1, skip a stitch, single crochet. So if you need to, you can just go back and either check the pattern or watch the video for each of these rows again. And I promise once you have done the repeat a number of times, you possibly won't even need to look at the pattern anymore. You'll just remember what it is you need to do. So I'm going to go ahead now and work 3 more rows and then reintroduce my colour 1. Okay, so I have just finished row 8, which means that I have done 4 rows with each colour, and I'm looking at the wrong side here, and I'm just going to change over now for row 9 to my first colour. So as I said already, if you're using more than 2 colours, it's probably a good idea to just cut your yarn and fasten off at the end of each row. But as I'm just using 2 for this swatch, I'm just going to change like so. So just float the yarn up, change colour as normal, give a little tug here on that previous colour to secure it in place, and then I am ready to go. So let us chain 1 and turn, and this is the row with the double and treble crochets. So we will begin as always with our 2 single crochets. And you don't need to worry too much about these floats because you're going to be adding a border later. So don't worry if you're using 2 colours and you think they look a bit out of place. It'll be absolutely fine. So let's go ahead now and do our double, our treble down here, and our double again. Now, so you can see it's really starting to come together now with this wavy shape. So I'll just finish the row and then I will stop so that we can continue on and finish the blanket. But I hope that this has given you a good picture of what the stitch pattern is going to look like. There we have it. That is our repeat. So all we need to do is repeat rows 2 to 5 for as long as you need your blanket to be. And we're going to end on a row here with our double, treble, double. stitch pattern, and that's going to just finish it off really nicely and give us a smooth edge at the top. So I'm going to get back to my blanket and keep working on that, and then I will come back into the video to show you how I work my border. So see you very, very soon. And we are back. My blanket is finished. Now, if only it was that quick and easy in real life. But honestly, as blanket projects go, this one is up there with the quickest and easiest, I have to say. So now I am ready to go on to my border. So I finished off up here with the color that I want my first border round to be. So this last row is a row 5 repeat. So it's the row with the double and treble crochets here. So I'm going to just continue on from this corner, working down the left edge here, and that is going to begin our border. So let's go ahead and do that now. Now I know we're very eager to get into the border, but there actually is just one thing that we need to do before we start, and that is to weave in those ends. So I have started it down here, just weave them in on the back. But unfortunately, I have not finished it. So before you begin the border, please do go weave those in, and then we'll be ready to get started. Okay, so let us get started on the border. Now I just have a few stitch markers here, and I'm going to use those to mark each of the 4 corners as we go along. So the first round of the border is going to be a round of single crochet worked all the way around the edge. And on each corner, we are going to do a single crochet, chain 2, and a single crochet into the same stitch. And don't worry, that will make a lot more sense once we actually get into it. So to begin, I am going to chain 3. And that first chain is just to get us to the correct height for this row, and then these other 2 chains are the corner. So I'm then going to single crochet into the side of that very last stitch that we worked as part of the final row. So it's a teeny bit tricky, but there we go. Okay, so that is our first corner made, and we'll just pop a stitch marker in there to mark the start of the round. And now all I'm going to do is single crochet evenly all along this left edge until I come to the next corner. So working our first single crochet into the edge of this pinkish row here, and then just working all the way along. Now if I can, I like to work through the center of these side stitches because I just feel like it gives a neater finish. And for this round, it's very easy actually to know how many stitches you need to work, because each of our rows here were single crochet rows, so we just need to work 1 stitch for each row. So for every block of colour that we have here, I'm going to have 4 single crochets. So I'm just going to keep going all the way along, and then I will show you how to work the next corner. Okay, so we have finished working into that first edge. Now, if you want to check your stitch count here, you should have an odd number of stitches because you have worked an odd number of rows here in the main body of the blanket. So I have a total of 89 stitches now in this first edge. So I'm going to turn the corner, and to do that, I'm simply going to chain 2, corner is turned, and now I'm going to start working into each of these stitches from the very first row. So let me just fly along there, and then when we get to the opposite edge, we will turn the corner in exactly the same way. And do keep an eye on your stitch count here. We had 79 stitches in that first row, so we want to have another 79 here. And we are not counting the chains as a stitch. And actually, let me just pop my marker in there, just to make my life a little easier later. So I will fly along with that now. And then I will just show you one last time how to turn the corner, and then you should be able to complete the rest of this round with absolutely no problems. Okay, so we have finished working that bottom edge and we're ready to turn the corner once more. And of course, we are just going to chain 2, and then we're going to begin working up the next edge, so the right edge, by working the first stitch into the same place that we just worked that last single crochet. So that will turn the corner, and it will also count as the first stitch of this next edge. And that's all there is to it. I'm just going to continue single crocheting all the way around this edge, then I'll turn the top corner in exactly the same way, and then I will just single crochet back to the start of the round. So I will continue on with that now, and then I will meet you back here very shortly to begin round 2. Okay, so I'm almost back to the start of this round. I just have one more stitch left to work, and that stitch is to complete this very first corner. So if you remember, in all the other corners we have a single crochet, a chain 2, and then a single crochet all into the same corner stitch, and that's exactly what we need to do over here as well. So we already have a chain 2 and a single crochet, and remember that chain 1 was just to get us into position for the start of the round, so it doesn't count as a stitch. So now to finish off that corner to match the others, I just need to do a single crochet into that very last stitch, and now the corner is done. So now to finish the round, I'm just going to join with a slip stitch into that chain space, and that is the round done. Now at this point you will want to do a check on your stitch count to make sure that you have an odd number of stitches on each edge. And the reason for this is that the next round is going to be a moss stitch or linen stitch round, and to accommodate that stitch pattern we need to have an odd number of stitches. So if you do find that on one of your edges you have an even number of stitches, you'll just need to go back and try and squeeze in another one or remove one if you have to, just to get to the odd number. So for round 2, I'm going to continue using the same colour. I'm just going to use a solid colour for my border, but if you want to switch to another colour, you can just fasten off and then join in another colour, and that's absolutely no problem. So let's get straight into round 2 of the border now. So to begin, I'm going to chain 3 just like I did with the previous round. I'm going to single crochet into that chain space, and now I've turned that first corner already, and when I get back to the start of the round I'll complete the corner. So now the moss stitch or linen stitch is a very easy stitch pattern. We're just going to chain 1, skip a stitch and single crochet in the next stitch, and that's all there is to it. So chain 1, skip a stitch, single crochet in the next stitch. And I will just continue doing that all the way along this edge until I come to the next corner. Okay, so here I am almost at the next corner, and now if everything has gone according to plan, you should have one more single crochet left just before your corner. So you will chain 1, skip that stitch, and then work your corner. So the corner is exactly the same as the previous round, which is chain 2, single crochet, chain 2, and then single crochet into the corner. So now I just need to continue working in the same pattern all the way around, and when we get back to the start I will show you how to finish off this round, and it is going to be very, very similar to the way we finished the previous round. So let me just fly along now, and I will see you back here very shortly. Okay, so I'm almost done with round 2. So let's just have a look at what we have here at the end of this round. So this is the last single crochet that we worked in round 1. This is the slip stitch that we used to join into that corner space at the end of round 1. And this is our chain 3 at the start of round 2. So to finish the round, I'm just going to chain 1 and skip that stitch, just following along with our pattern, and then I'm going to work my final single crochet into that same place there that we worked the very first one of this round. So I'm working over the slip stitch into that gap, and that's just going to complete the corner. So we have our single crochet, chain 2, single crochet, and then to finish we'll just join the slip stitch into that corner. All right, and that is round 2 done. So we can continue on with round 3 now, and the good news is that round 3 is very, very easy. It's going to be almost identical to round 2, the only difference being that we're going to work our single crochets into these chain 1 spaces. So I'll go ahead and start that now. So we have our chain 3, single crochet into that first space, now chain 1, skip the single crochet, and then single crochet into the next stitch, and that's it. So it's super easy. So I'm just going to fly around and finish this round, and I think I'm going to leave my border at this thickness. I'm pretty happy with it, but if you want to make yours wider, you just keep repeating round 3 for as long as you need to. And like I said earlier, you can change colors, you can do stripes, you can do a solid color, you can do whatever you want. So I am just going to keep going with my final border round, and then I'll be all done. And there we have it, we're all done. I really hope you have enjoyed making this crochet blanket with me, and if you do have a second to subscribe, that would be really, really great. I do have lots more tutorials and free crochet patterns on my channel and website, nedandmimi.com, so do check those out. Happy crocheting and take care.